Hello, my name is Christine, and I run a vintage shop called Prima Treasures on Etsy. Today I wanted to tackle one of those burning questions that people often seem to have about vintage items that they come across. And the burning question is, should I clean it? So I want to clarify that for the purposes of my conversation, when I talk about cleaning something, I am talking about using mild soap and water and just giving something a very light clean. No scrubbing, no harsh products. We're talking about just making sure dirt is removed. So a lot of people, when they think about cleaning, they think about the harsher version. You know, getting special cleaners, special polishes, really scrubbing something to death in order to remove every speck of possible discoloration or spotting or anything that they see. Now, in the vintage world, this type of treatment would probably be considered more akin to refinishing because you're not just taking dirt off, you're taking patina off. And when it comes to vintage and antique items, people like that patina. There are buyers who look for that patina. So essentially what you've done by removing it is you refinished that item. So I kind of want to give some examples to show what I mean by that, and also to kind of walk you through the reasons that you might have to either clean or not clean. So I've got several different pairings here that I want to show. And the first pairing I'm going to talk about is this little silver cream jug. And you can see, if I set it on the table, you can see it looks very clean. There's a little bit of color around the top and bottom rim. I did polish this, so that's why it looks like that. But for the most part, this looks like something that no one would have any problem sitting on their table, using with food. You know, exactly what you would do with a little cream jug. So this is what I mean by refinishing. If it had tarnish on it and I removed it, it now becomes arguably less valuable. There are collectors out there who want their old items to look old, and especially for, at least from what my experience with boomers, they consider that dirty. So I'm going to show you my example number 2. In their eye, this piece is dirty because it's got a dull gray finish. You can see spotting here on the rim. Let me tip it up a little bit so you can get a good look at that. And you can see, you know, there's kind of a little splotchy quality to it. The top also has similar discoloration, so does the handle. So they would consider this dirty. They would polish the crap out of this, and they would want it to look like this. But there are collectors to whom this is the desired look. This looks antique. It looks like it's been around for a long time. It's seen some things. It has character. It has wear and tear. So when you remove all of this to make it look like this, you're essentially removing what they value as hard-won age. And I know that this might seem like a bizarre concept to some people, so I kind of want to put it in more modern terms to help sort of educate why somebody would want this look. So one of the things that I've noticed over the past 5 years is that you walk into a Hobby Lobby and you see a lot of things that you know are brand new. They just made them. They were sitting in a factory somewhere. But they've got wood, and the wood is scuffed up with some of the paint removed, and it might have some, intentional dings and dents and things of that nature. But essentially what they did, they might even go as far, like say on a faux clock, to have some of the paint worn off of the numbers themselves on the clock, not just like on the edges of the design, but actually as part of the core feature, which on a clock is a clock face, that they would actually scuff away some of the paint on the clock face. And it is very common to walk into a Hobby Lobby or a similar type of craft home decor store and see these intentionally distressed, intentionally worn, aged looking, fake aged, I should say. They're not really aged. They're aged looking items that they're selling for, in a lot of cases, more than I would have charged for the same type of object in its original vintage form with legitimate age on it. So that's kind of the vibe that we're talking about here when we're talking about age. We're talking about something that intentionally looks old, distressed, worn, whatever term you want to use for that. And because Hobby Lobby is a huge national chain, they know their audience, they know their customers. If they're making things that intentionally look like that, then there's clearly buyers out there who want that kind of look. So I kind of just want to put that out there as this is not my imagination, this is a real thing that people do actively seek out when purchasing home decor. So this would fall into that category of aged, worn, looking lived in. You could use any sorts of adjectives to describe it. It's got a little bit of an uneven rim here, and that kind, and then the bottom as well. So this probably is, because it's made by Reed & Barton, it's using an older mark, it probably is pre-World War II. So it may not be technically antique, but it's probably close. So this is the difference between, shiny, pretty, and new, and then aged and worn. So I'm going to put those aside and show my next pairing, which is 2 copper mugs. Now you can see this one is quite shiny looking. The finish looks very bright, like you would expect copper to look. It's got an age look to it because when copper is freshly polished, it has a little bit of a pinkish hue, which I find kind of weird, to be honest. But this one has a nicely aged copper patina without looking, unattractive. And then next to that, I've put this mug, which clearly has a very dark patina to it. You can see, if I pulled it up close, it's got scratches, it's got some uneven coloration in areas, there's a dent right there, the inside looks pretty dark. So it's got a lot of age and, let's call it, warts going on. So between the 2 mugs, there are certain people who would look at this mug and go, oh, well, this is definitely the one I'm interested in. It looks shiny, it looks pretty, it looks uniform. I don't see any, problematic flaws on it. But there are other people who would look at this one and say, well, this one looks nice and aged. It looks like it's been places and done things, and I want something with character in my bar. So the choice to clean or not clean boils down to that, to whether you want to cater to the person who likes this clean and shiny look, or someone who wants this kind of weathered and aged look. So if you had copper mugs that you wanted to put out in an estate sale or garage sale or whatever, there are plenty of people who would just sit there and polish for hours so that all the mugs look like this. And then there are other people who wouldn't bother to do anything and who would sell it like this. But the important thing for making the decision, if you're looking to sell, is if I leave it like this, then I can appeal to the buyers who like this look. If I polish all of the mugs and make them look like this, then I've taken that choice away. Now, the person who buys this mug doesn't have the option to leave it alone and have it with character, or they themselves can polish it up and make it look shiny like this. I've decided for them that this is the only option that they get. So choosing to leave something alone and not, in this case, I would definitely consider this refinishing. You took an aged, weathered finish and you replaced it with a shiny, bright finish. And a lot of people would consider that you've taken the character away from this mug by turning it into this mug. So when you're talking about something that you're planning to sell, It's usually better, at least we in the vintage world think it's usually better to leave this alone. Let the buyer decide whether they want this or this, because there are people who are specifically looking for this. And if you hand them this, they're going to walk away. You don't get to sell. This way, you've got two chances to sell to somebody. You've got the chance of selling to somebody who likes the bright, shiny look and knows they can polish this and get it to look like that. And you also have a chance to sell to a buyer who actually prefers it this way and would walk away from this mug. So that's the example I wanted to show in copper. And then I have these two pieces that are wood. And I think the wood can really give you the starkest difference between pretty and aged. Because wood is not, you could not just clean this or scrub it and make it look like that. This particular stein, you can probably see the shine on it. It still has the original lacquer, which means the wood has not really aged much at all. This is probably very much what it looked like when the person bought it. So, you know, you're getting something that looks like it did on the day that it got purchased and went home with somebody. And again, this is a look that will appeal to certain people, but so is this. I mean, this has got some hard-won age on it. You can see it's actually got an age crack. I don't know how you'd fake that. I'm not entirely sure if you could fake something like that. You can see inside it that it's just got a ton of really, you know, it looks pretty beat up. But you couldn't go to a store and buy something that had this much age and wear and tear on it. Because even with the kind of tricks they use nowadays, it would be difficult for them to a faux finish at this level. This is hard-won age. And as I say, I also don't know that you could effectively clean it and turn it into something more like that, even if you wanted to. But there are definitely buyers who would be attracted to this piece and not this piece. So that's one of the things I wanted to kind of use to illustrate the difference between faded, aged, weathered, again, you can use whichever term you feel more comfortable with, and the brand new version over here. It's not brand new, but essentially it probably looks like it did when they bought it. But with this particular piece, you would be gaining, let's say you did purchase this as a prop for your man cave, or, you know, you have a bar display or whatever. I mean, you could totally pass this off as, you know, the Holy Grail from Indiana Jones, because it looks that old and beat up. So I just kind of wanted to put a video out there to explain the difference between cleaning and not cleaning, and also explain the rationale, so that if you have something that you're contemplating, should I clean it? Should I not clean it? Well, first of all, as I said, I consider aggressive cleaning to be more along the lines of refinishing, but that's still the same question that you're trying to answer. Should I make it look shiny and pretty, or should I leave it looking like this? And the answer boils down to, are you planning to sell it, and do you reasonably think that there could be buyers out there who would be interested in the aged and weathered look? Because if there are, then it's safer to leave it alone and let the buyer make the final decision when they get it home. So I hope that this information helped you. I hope that I've given you some good contrasting views in terms of, you know, what clean and pretty looks like, what aged and weathered looks like, so you can kind of see the difference for yourself and then use that in your own situation of items you might have where you're struggling to make that kind of judgment call. As I have mentioned several times, in the antique world, it is always safer to leave things alone if you don't know for sure whether someone would prefer it cleaned up or not. So that would be my final thought. If you have watched this video, you've seen my examples, and you're still torn, leave it alone. Just dust it off and put it out there and see if you get a taker. I hope this information helps you, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.